Welcome to Sisters in Sobriety. Today, our guest is Amy Tangerine, who has built an entire world around color, creativity, and permission to play. She's a designer, an author, creative director, and memory keeper, and founder of a joy filled creative brand that has inspired hundreds of thousands of people to reconnect with their imagination. Welcome, Amy.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. So, you describe yourself as a multi passionate maker. What are the earliest creative sparks that you can remember in your childhood?
It dates back to as far as I can remember. I was always the person who loved getting a brand new box of crayons or didn't want to ruin sharpened colored pencils, who collected stickers, erasers, and I loved anything to do with arts and crafts.
And so, when did you realize that this could become a career and not just a hobby?
Right. I actually had no idea until I stepped into a scrapbooking store after I had already been a fashion designer for many years. So I was a fashion stylist, then I was the designer of a t-shirt line called Amy Tangerine. We sold in over 250 boutiques around the world. And then as I was burning out from the fashion industry, I walked into a scrapbooking store and I saw these amazing supplies, and I didn't know that people documented their lives in this way and told their stories and shared their experiences. And I've always been a memory keeper. I like to collect scraps of things. I always had a paper planner, and I always dreamt of scrapbooking. But because I couldn't necessarily afford the supplies when I was a teenager, I would just cut up magazines. Do you remember getting Sassy YM 17? And I would cut them up and make these, now they're called vision boards, but I
Yeah.
didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was just collaging and playing and taking the sentiments and the photos that appeal to me and putting them on this big poster board. And so I was doing that. I've been journaling and doing things creatively since I was probably 9 or 10. The journaling practice started with a Hello Kitty journal that had that fake lock on it. Actually, it was a real lock, but you could always rig it with any type of key when you would lose your keys. And you opened it up and it was a lined journal. It was from Sanrio. And I remember, I think there was one that was little twin stars that was too precious to write in. So I found myself only writing in this other one, and I would lock it up as if I had, a ton of secrets as 9 years old or something. But yeah, I really found that journaling, even or writing in a diary, right? Those were the days of like, "Dear diary, I went to my friend's house today." That's what I would write. That would be the entry.
And when you wrote your book, Craft a Life You Love, you kind of blended memoir and guidance. What made you want to tell your story in that way?
A great question. I think because I didn't know any other angle to do it from. I'm
Mm,
not even an expert in my own life, but I wanted to share these lived experiences so that maybe one or two other people could relate to feeling certain ways and then taking what they love to do, their hobby of choice, and finding so much joy in it, but they didn't know how to explain themselves. And the reason I wanted to tell my story is because I had a profound shift in realizing that while I had a so-called successful t-shirt line, I wasn't finding joy in it anymore. And while the path may be different for other people, maybe they would find one thing that they could resonate with and apply it to their own life. So I found a lot of people who would be sort of dismissing hobbies as being silly or, insignificant in the grand scheme of things. But when you find something that lights you up and you're doing it just for the sake of whatever joy it brings you, you're definitely not hurting anybody. You're creating something because you love it. Look at all these granny hobbies that have become
I have
explosive
them
recently,
all.
right? Yeah, cozy hobbies. And they know something, right? There is something about sitting still in the hobby of your choice, whether it's woodworking, playing with doll houses, or sculpting mini things out of clay. There's so many paths that we can take to find comfort in ourselves. And I think the hobbies are a way to do that. And I wanted to sort of give people permission to tell them that their hobbies matter, that taking time to craft a life you love matters. And it's so much deeper than what you do for work. It's so much deeper than who you are and all the roles you play. It really matters for you to take 15 minutes of time for yourself to do what fuels you. And you don't even have to explain it to anybody else.
So, at some point in your professional journey, did those things light you up? Like, did fashion styling light you up? Did the t-shirt line light you up? And then at some point, did it stop?
Of course, yes, it absolutely did. I feel very blessed to have been raised by two parents, two immigrant parents who really believed when they came to this country in 1970, whatever children they had, only me, there was only one child. They really wanted to instill this belief that I could do whatever I put my mind and my heart to. And the idea that I could be free to follow whatever path I chose was so ingrained that if I didn't do things that made me happy, it would be strange to them, you know? And you know what's funny is that when I was little, I said that I wanted to be either a dentist or an orthodontist.
No.
And yeah, no, an orthodontist because I had braces and I remember going in and I had to get my rubber bands adjusted. And my dad literally said, okay, we were there for 10 minutes and we paid $75. Do you know how much money that is? You know? And so I would start calculating. I was like, oh, orthodontists make a lot of money. You know, he was trying to just tell me the value of things. And also,
Yeah.
can you believe this? You have to have braces on for 2 years. This just
Yeah.
costs this much. So I think in his mind, he really wanted to say, gosh, could you imagine? That would be so great if you enjoyed doing that and were good at it. I didn't obviously go into the medical field, but he was an engineer, and I think that he loved what he did. My mom didn't necessarily love her job, but she, worked hard, and she believed in finding the hobbies and the things that she enjoyed doing after work or on the weekends. So she loved sewing because they were very poor when they moved to this country, and she was very tiny. She couldn't find clothes that fit her. So one of the anniversary presents, my dad bought her a sewing machine, and so she would make all of her own clothes because she really couldn't find anything. So it was a matter of necessity, but at the same time, she really enjoyed doing it. She enjoyed creating something with her hands.
Is to me pretty interesting because I didn't find that my own immigrant parents instilled that finding something you love and that creative things for me growing up were kind of positioned as this waste of time. And so that is why I find what you do so interesting and I find it a challenge. And so I am not the only person though who finds it challenging to kind of like use creativity. So, how does creativity actually help people design a more intentional way of living?
Right, there's so many ways, and for me, it really comes down to a few things. As a Libra, I always tried to find balance in my life, but I learned that it really is more about harmony and flow. And when people have you ever felt that creative flow when you're
Yeah.
in something and you lose sense of time, you lose sense of anything outside of you, and you're really just aligned with who you are inside?
Yeah.
So that to me, because self-care and wellness weren't really heralded on my mom's side of the family,
Yeah.
basically it was like you work hard and that's it. You work hard and you do the things you need to
Yeah.
do. Whereas my dad really wanted to make me believe that you work hard and you play hard. So
Mhm.
what does that look like for you? And with me, I think there was so much noise in my head being an only child and being somebody who just has this inner dialogue constantly. It got to a point in my teen years where it was very critical. I was overcritical of myself. At that time, my
Yeah.
parents were also getting divorced. my favorite person, my grandfather, had Alzheimer's, so he was getting lost, and I really felt like I needed something inside of me, but I don't know that I knew that right away, but I found that cutting up magazines was very soothing. It almost felt like this way of coming back to myself and regaining some sort of normalcy and control. I mean, at that time, I think of it as trying to have control over a situation, and I could lay out the designs how I wanted and how what felt good. So I really believe that we all have this desire within us to, feel good about ourselves. And we have different ways of getting there. For me, I really had to, maybe for you too, there is something called workaholism, right? And
Mm.
where we gain value from how we perform or what we do and what we achieve. Whereas my hobbies were just for me. My journaling was just for me. And what I found was when I did arts and crafts and then I showed it to other people, like my friends, they got inspired to make their own thing, right? And they would be like, let me play with those markers. Let me play with those things that you have. And it's really interesting because I think that everybody has this desire to find what brings self-awareness, self-care,
Yeah.
liberation, anything of the self, however you wanna label it. The and it's our duty, actually, it's our obligation to ourselves, it's a gift to ourselves to find whatever that is.
Is, and I think that when you mentioned the work hard, play hard, I say that a lot, and I say that my play hard was drinking. And so that I would work really hard, and then my other, side of my life was drinking. And so when I stopped drinking, when I realized I had to cultivate some hobbies. And so I didn't even know what it meant. So how do you define so for adults like me whose recreational hobby has been drinking, how do you even define play? Redefine
Wow. I
play.
wanna redefine it. Yeah, I think what's so interesting is that play is so innate in children. So maybe you could do some practices where you can either meditate on it, or if you have trouble sitting still like I did, I would journal about it. Think about when you were little and try to put away all the feedback coming from your parents about what fun was. Because when you're 7 years old, you're not thinking about alcohol, right? You're just going outside and exploring and thinking about the things that bring you joy without even thinking that they bring you joy, whether it's getting on a bike, running and across the street to play with your friends, whatever that is, or observing nature. I mean, it could be so many things. Think about what brought you joy and a sense of play when you were about 7 or 8 years old. I think that inner child in you will tell you, "Oh gosh, remember loving swimming or loving" I mean, it could be anything. Can you think of something that you loved back then?
Yeah, and that's what I did when I stopped drinking. I thought about those things. And so I loved all types of crafts. And so I am a big crafter now, but I loved to read. And so I love to read in the evening. And when you are, an active alcoholic, it is very hard to read a book at night. And so, I would get home from work late and open a bottle of wine, and I would normally pass out. And the idea and let's say I would, say, "Oh, today I'm gonna read, 15 pages." I sometimes wouldn't remember what I read the next day. And so it's now one of my favorite things to do is I get in bed really early and I will read. So I'll read for, an hour, hour and a half before I go to bed now, and it's yeah, it does bring me back, you're right, to that childhood sort of feeling where every night I would, get under my covers with, a nightlight and read, and now I have an iPad like a
Yeah.
big girl, and so I can still read with the lights off, and so, yeah, that is interesting, and my boyfriend, his I thought it was really interesting that his brother has, an epic Lego collection.
See?
And I thought and he said as he got older, he thought, "What did I like to do when I was younger? What brought me joy?"
Yeah. And it's interesting too that you mentioned that because I just took my daughter to Legoland for, I don't know, her, like, 6th time there. I mean,
Yeah.
she's only 5 years old, right? So, it brings me so much joy that she would rather build a Lego set than watch her iPad,
Yeah.
right? Because that's a shift. She's doing something with her hands, it's connective, and reading is one of those things that she can't really do yet. So,
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I read her books, but it's not the same thing. So the love of reading that you found that you connected to back then and you still do now, it's so interesting that adults, we forget those things or we dismiss
Oh,
them or just put them away and we think we need to find these huge new hobbies that we've never tried before. I mean, that could be a path, definitely. But really, I think that if we ask ourselves, gosh, why don't you just play with Lego? Why don't you just build something? And I love that he has these sets. Because I'm one of those people. I bought a set for myself. I bought the Game Boy one. I still haven't built it yet. And I
yeah,
sort of
he hasn't
channel.
built them, so a lot of
Yeah.
them are in their boxes.
Well, that's another thing is as an adult, because you can afford it and reward yourself with it,
S
sometimes that
exactly.
is enough. Sometimes just collecting it and saying, okay, you know what? When I do feel the urge to build this, I have it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that seems to be a lot of it is the collecting, like, there's a lot of collecting people, like, I've noticed too, people who collect, like, memorabilia from their childhood almost, like Legos or, like,
Totally.
Nintendo
Baseball
game
cards. Yes.
cards. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many different ways. I love that you mentioned the collecting part because I have been a collector pretty much all my life. And sometimes people say, "Oh, well, that's junk," right? But now there's a whole surge, I don't know if you've seen it,
Yeah.
but junk journaling is a huge thing. Yeah, it's a
What's junk
huge thing.
journaling?
Junk journaling, yes. I mean, it was written up in the New York Times recently, and it's become this whole wave of people wanting to go back to analog because they're trying to maybe stay away from social media or not be on their devices so much. So they're finding junk journaling, which is so fascinating because you don't need a lot of supplies. You basically need a notebook, a glue stick, scissors, and then whatever junk or labels you find around, you can paste together. And I actually have my junk journal here, but it might be a little bit noisy while I try to get it. And you can just place funny find things. Okay, this is really funny. I don't know if you can see it, but basically it's an
Yes.
artist's wrapper with a Yellow Pages thing and then a hotel card holder, and then there's a coffee hugger. I mean, this is not one of the good pages, but there's anything I like to color coordinate, so
Yeah.
any kind of packaging that you might find, and people find it very therapeutic just to save this kind of stuff and have a home for it. Here's a
Oh
little rainbow.
my god.
Yeah, label, and so I think it's wha and chopstick wrapper, and I the reason I like it is because I'm a memory keeper anyway, so I like to grab a scrap here and there and paste it into my creative journal, which happens to be my memory planner as well, because it instantly brings me back
Yeah.
to that place, and especially if it's a happy memory or having a home for my collections makes me happy, instead of in a stack. Because
Yeah.
we have those piles, I'm a piler, so I will keep a pile of things, random things that some people might categorize as junk, and then I won't actually put them somewhere. So I love that it has a home for my collection.
I love that, and that never even occurred to me. You must have so many glue sticks around your house.
Several. There's 2 on my desk right here.
What happens to us though, like, emotionally or, like, neurologically when we're in that playful state?
I feel as though there is nothing that beats flow.
Yeah.
And it takes us a while as adults to get into it. So I think that the whatever. I'm not a doctor. So all I know is that I am so much happier as a person. I'm a better mom. I'm a better partner. I'm a better friend when I get my creative time. And in my book, I talk about this permission slip. And truly, I remember back in the days when my son was really little and all I could do was survive and not thrive, right? The idea of thriving was like, oh my goodness. And you don't even need to carve out that much time for yourself to come back to yourself. I couldn't even fathom taking out time to go get an hour-long massage, right? But my husband would be like, maybe you should go into the studio and just do something for 30 minutes. And just that permission of not him giving it to me, of me giving it to myself. I'm like, 30 minutes I can do, right?
Yeah.
30 minutes I feel comfortable doing. And it would, of course, take me 15 minutes to actually sit down and catch myself. And so I needed to set up these systems where I would just be able to come in here for 10 to 15-minute pockets and
Hmm.
create something. And it was only for me. It wasn't even for anybody else, but it made me a better person. Made me a less anxious, less short. My temper wasn't I wasn't on the edge of like, exploding because I had taken that time for myself to really it was like very therapeutic.
Yeah. And
And I
so
don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like people who can crochet while watching TV because I couldn't sit still. So the only way I felt, oh, here's something interesting that just came to me. It was almost as if, how you probably, um, a lot of people feel like they have to have a reward after working hard.
Mhm.
And for you, it might have been the bottle of wine, right? Well, for me, the reward is the act in itself, like the creative process itself is the reward.
Not
So
the end
I'm not
product.
looking not no. And when you can make that switch, when you
Yeah.
can actually enjoy the process of it and not just be obligated to this end product that you have to show or it has to be a certain way, that is where the magic lies.
That is interesting. I think that's something that I struggle with. And so, even with reading, it's like I'm always looking to see how close I am to like how much did I read. I'm always quantifying. I'm not able to not put a metric on something. And the same thing with knitting. I knit a lot. And so that is something I've been getting better about. It's like it doesn't really matter what the end product is. And part of that is also knitting in the summer, I'm like, "Well, it doesn't really matter, I'm not gonna use it until, like, next year anyways." And but still doing it just to do it, and so part of it is that sort of tactile, like, creativity. How is that different from digital creativity? Because I've noticed too, so doing the podcast, like I've interviewed people who have like an AI digital journaling as opposed to like, so part of journaling for me is that tactile, like I love my little books still. And I have these cute little like pen holders that I like attached to like my journal stuff. And I have, like, my four-color pen, and I have a different color every day that I, write with, and so I've noticed that there is this shift, right, from, to making things that were tactile digital. Well, how do you feel about that and the difference between it?
Yeah, I personally love the fact that we have all these digital tools to help us do things and memory keep. My husband, for example, does digital memory keeping. And he's able to pull up, 10 years ago on this date, this is what happened. And he's trained his AI to pull from his emails. So it'll extract things from his previous emails from 10 years ago, let's say. And it was interesting the other day. He's like, oh, yeah, X amount of years ago, I told my mom that we were doing this. Do you remember that? I'm like, oh, no, I don't. And for me, I would have to physically go find the journal and see what it is and obviously everybody remembers things differently too. So I find it interesting what people choose to memory keep and how. I did recently, and there have been tons of studies that have shown that the act of pen to paper, it activates a part of your brain that's different than typing. And I
Yeah.
think that's why long live analog is going to be the way that we can counteract this digital movement that is deterring us from actually tapping into those good vibe feelings and the serotonin or whatever the thing is, I don't even know. But whatever the act of putting the pen to paper, they are showing that it activates something else in our brain that we can't get from just typing.
Yeah, it's funny. So I was when I was interviewing the AI journaling guy, the thing is that I loved what you're talking about, like those metrics or they could pull stuff out and themes that I can't pull out of my journal. But it's like I have to balance that against the handwriting. So he said, well, you could always take a picture and upload your journals. And then what you can do is, what I loved is he would say, you can ask the app, hey, what do I want to talk about in therapy this week? Like, what were some themes in my journaling? And I was like, I need that.
Wow.
But it's like, do I need that more than I need the pen to paper? And it's like, I need both.
Yes.
So I agree. I love and I like look, I love like health tracker apps. I think there's something so great with I love a metric. And so
Yes. Yep.
yeah, but yeah, are there things like so for example, like digital scrapbooking? Like is that something what do you think of?
People love digital scrapbooking, and
Yeah.
I love any type of memory keeping. So if that's
Yeah.
what works for you, I think that it's great. I personally made a commitment to myself about maybe, probably 10 years ago after my son, was 2 years old. I said that I really wanted to only spend time on the computer that I had to spend on the computer. And this really opened up this was probably, right when I started my YouTube channel, um, and was really getting into it. I really just didn't want to spend too much time overthinking because I was a high achiever, you're a high achiever, there are many high achievers listening to this, I'm sure, where we can overdo things, and we suddenly get away from what it is we're trying to not only achieve, but the purpose of what we're trying to create. So, the reason I wanted to get off the computer was because I only wanted to spend the amount of time that I had to do the thing that only I could do, so that I could get off the computer and do these other things that brought me joy. And it's really interesting because I sometimes lose sight of that because everything is going so digital, and sometimes I have to browse on the computer to get design inspiration,
Yeah.
and then, you know what? It's already created as an asset. I don't have to actually draw the hummingbird that I want to create because I can go on Creative Market or any of these other asset places that I can purchase it, and it's much more valuable for me to then take that hummingbird and use it to create a sticker. And so I'm referring to just different designing. When I'm designing stickers, I haven't created that much for digital scrapbooking because I am more tactile. But
Yeah.
there are plenty of people who have very amazing albums online of their scrapbooks, and then they can upload that and get a book printed if they wanted, right? But for me
Ah.
personally, I don't operate in that way. Mixbook is actually a really good company that allows you to do the digital scrapbooking, but they make it very easy, and then they'll send you a physical book after.
So when we talk about memory keeping, are we talking about scrapbooking or is there more to it? Are we talking, is that junk journaling a type of memory keeping?
I believe so. Any type of documentation of your memories or things that happen in your life, I associate with memory keeping.
Yeah. And how are you putting things together? Is it just sort of tracking? Are you kind of shaping a narrative when you're doing it? How do you look at it?
For me, I don't shape a narrative because the outlet has to be creative and free flowing. So I will sometimes look at my journaling and say, okay, do I really just want to talk about how I feel or what I did? Right? The easiest way to get started in journaling is just to say who, what, when, where, why. Okay.
Ah,
Right? Like, who was I with? When was this? What did we do? Where were we? And why were we together? Or what was the purpose?
yeah.
And that's a simple way of doing it. But sometimes I just go off on tangents and just free write. I think that
Wow.
these are all, I mean, nobody's going to sit here and actually read this. I mean, I might not even go back and read
Yeah.
it, but
I
I
don't
have to
necessarily.
have a creative outlet, even if it's just scribbling things. And I was actually, my last video on YouTube is, I think the working title was Take Your Rage Out on the Page, because we have
Wow.
so many things that we have to process these days in the outside world, in our own lives, and being able to have a place to put that. And you don't even have to, because sometimes I don't like focusing on the negative because I think that it takes us away from the gratitude that we could be experiencing.
Yeah.
But there are just times where you need to set a timer for 10 minutes and take your rage out on the page. And then you can also cover it up with pretty paints or collage papers or magazines. And that way, you know that it is out of your system.
Yeah.
There is something very regulating about journaling in any capacity. So whether it is dictating it, typing it,
Mhm.
I do love the AI compiling the data,
Yeah.
but but for me personally, I don't I don't need that in the process itself after doing it for very many years.
Yeah.
It
You
feels
know.
like therapy in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I journal a lot and actually just hearing him say that, like, "Oh, well, it can let you know what to talk about in therapy." Just that, now when I'm journaling, I'll kind of be like, "Oh, okay, you know what? I actually know the 3 things this week that I think I need to talk about."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's an unlock, and it's a beautiful self-awareness tool
Yeah.
that whether you wanna look at it or not, right? When you really allow yourself to journal your thoughts out, half of them could be just throwaway thoughts, but if I am repeating things to myself, maybe it's something that I need to address in a deeper way.
Talking about getting the rage out on the page. I have a problem getting anger, like, accessing my anger. Um Is that something so other than journaling, do you think there are other creative ways that can allow you to sort of access those deeper emotions? Like, I don't know if you rage scrapbook. I don't think you rage scrapbook. Or do you think it comes out in different ways? But I do, yeah, my therapist told me to go to a rage room.
Okay, well, I've never been to a rage room. I have picked up, though, since last November, pickleball, and I
Oh,
am obsessed. So this is not creative and it's not arts and crafts or anything, but I believe that we are dynamic human beings, so we need to access different parts of ourselves.
yeah.
And I find that after a good pickleball game, whether I win or lose, I feel so much more like myself. I've burned calories. Pickleball is actually very social, and I just enjoy it so much. I love it. And so I think in a way I take my rage out on the pickleball.
This. Okay, back to the memory keeping. Sorry, just like a slight detour for rage, but how are you incorporating like photos versus like written reflections? Like what is the sort of formula that you're using that people can kind of look at?
I have simplified it a lot because I do believe that in different seasons of our lives, we don't necessarily prioritize this for ourselves. And I do it in a way that I can do it daily, 10 to 15 minutes. If I want to print a photo, I can. If I don't, I know I have the photos on my camera roll and I can print them at any time. So there are so many ways you can memory keep. You can do traditional memory keeping, 12 by 12 scrapbook pages. You can do memory keeping in a small planner that you always have with you. It was so funny because Kat was like, "I'm so glad you take this with you, everywhere you go." And I forgot to get a little I'm talking about Kat Sadler. We had lunch yesterday,
Yeah.
and I forgot to get a little business card from where we ate, but I will go ahead and fill it in later.
Oh,
So I'll take the time, and sometimes I catch up, and sometimes 10 to 15 minutes isn't enough to fill in the
okay.
blanks. But here you have a picture of me holding my collaboration with Creative Memories. It says on the bright side.
Yeah.
So with that collaboration, we have this complete album kit where you can literally all you have to do is add your photos. So you can take time to scrapbook and add your own photos and tell your story, but in a way that feels very freeing and allows you to complete it. I think somebody told me they completed theirs in 3 hours. So think about
Wow.
all the things that you've saved over the years and how much you want to document. Now, I have a daughter who is 5 years old, and she doesn't have her own scrapbook. So that's what I'm dedicating that scrapbook to, and I've printed the photos. That took me a long time, and now I need to just assemble the album. So there are different ways, whether you're time constrained or not. And
Yeah.
when you do have a little bit more time, I have a junk journal. I have a journal that nobody sees. I have my memory keeping planner.
Oh,
There are so many different ways that you can do it, and I don't believe in chronological order. So people sometimes that hangs people up, okay? Because
yeah.
they end up feeling guilty that they haven't done their
Mhm.
wedding or their
Yep.
whatever, right? Name it. And then they don't realize that they could just start now with what lights them up. It could be a memory of literally when you were 10 years old if you want. Or you can just say, "Oh, my relative recently passed, so let me just document this one memory I have of them," or take it and put some thoughts to it, whether it be in a book or just on a single sheet of paper. There's so many ways we put too much pressure on ourselves to make it this final thing when
Yeah.
nobody actually really needs that, right? We don't even need it ourselves, to tell you the truth. I mean,
Yeah.
after I got those pictures printed, I still haven't assembled the album. My daughter knows she's getting one, but it's okay to let it evolve as you have time and as you prioritize it.
I think again, it goes back to that, like, it's not about the final product and kinda just, like, letting go. Speaking of another, method, what do you think of vision boards, journals, books, the sort of manifesting idea, and do you do it, and how do you do it?
Obsessed. I
Oh,
am
okay.
obsessed with it, and I really believe that there is power in vision boarding and doing it in the way that serves us, but it has to be in alignment, right? It has to
Yeah.
come from the true belief in yourself and what you're worthy of. So, something powerful that I wrote in my journal years ago is what I desire is what I deserve. Because sometimes I think the self belief isn't there, and we think, oh, okay, I can just make this vision board, and then
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
going
yeah.
to happen. And then when it doesn't happen, we think vision boards don't work. But that's not really what vision boards, in my mind, allow for. I make these mission. I make these mini vision boards in my journal,
I mean, you could
and I
call it a
do
mission
some of
board, but yeah,
it could be a mission board, yeah.
yeah.
I make them so that I can see it and it travels with me, and it's very much a way of finding kind of a North Star for the year or for the month and things that I really truly believe are possible because I've seen evidence of it happening. I have this vision board that I've kept from, I think, 2018 or 19 when I was going through my miscarriages. I had 4 miscarriages over the course of 4 years, and something kept telling me that I don't know, I just thought there was something wrong with me. I'm an overachiever, so I was just, like, trying to do all the things. I gave up gluten, I did all the things, right? I was
Yeah.
doing all of the things, but what it really unlocked for me was this vision of a life of a beautiful family unit, right? And how that would feel. Okay, so whether the second child would come to being or not,
Yeah.
it was more of, okay, in this family unit, how do I want to feel? What makes it feel whole? And I could create that through the vision board and through living it with the family that I had with just one child. The reason I didn't want one child, only one child, is because I'm an only child and I know that the
Yeah.
loneliness that I experienced when I was younger, I just didn't want to put that on my son. But also, that's my own thing that I was trying to not put on my son. Whereas my
Yeah.
husband is the
Yeah.
oldest of four, and he's like, Jake will be okay as an only child.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting how that comes to be, but in putting that vision board together, that's the unlock that I made for myself. And so I feel as though that was unblocked for me to realize whatever my family looks like, it's going to be what is to be. And I will get the most love, joy, fulfillment out of that family unit, whatever it looks like. And then
Yeah.
April 1st of 2020, April Fool's Day, I found out I was pregnant with my daughter who's now 5 years old. So it's a beautiful surprise.
So would you call it manifesting or would you call it what would you call it?
If I had to label it, I
Yeah.
believe that it was manifesting, but I also believe in this higher power that allows us to open up the path for our highest and best
Mhm.
and better than we know ourselves. I believed I manifested her. And I
Well,
believe that she was integral in healing our family unit. Isn't that interesting too? But I don't wanna put that on her, right? I don't wanna put that
yeah,
on
yeah,
her
yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
the yeah.
It's the
However, I
child.
think
It's like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, the no golden child upbringing
yeah.
here, but yeah, I do believe in the power of manifesting, and I think that there are, 3 components when it comes to manifesting? I think it's unblocking, aligned action, and expanding. So we have
Mhm.
to expand our outlook, and that can happen through creative processes like
Mm.
journaling, like making vision boards. And you also have to, when you're making a vision board, let's say, what are you choosing to pay attention to, right? That could be a signal. If you're identifying these patterns, if I'm constantly just only clipping out vacation photos, let's say, that might be a sign that I need a vacation or that I need to heal some part of being home to make me feel
That
that feeling that I have when I'm on vacation,
yeah,
right? What is it about like letting go of certain responsibilities when I'm on vacation? Maybe I should bring that back into my own home and how
uh,
much lighter will I feel?
when I go on vacation, I try to bring something back from it, like not an actual physical object, but like a feeling or something, or practice every time I come back to make home feel more like a vacation. I have
Right.
another question though about this, a very practical question is don't really I read all my magazines on an iPad now. And
Mm.
so do I need to go if I want to make vision boards, do I need to go get some magazines?
If you want to, you can.
Okay.
Uh, there are plenty of digital vision boards being made.
Okay.
Because I prefer tangible tactile, I don't do it that way. You know what? I just lied. I actually do it that way, and then I've created these printable sheets for people so that I compile elements that I like, and then so that part of it is kind of processed within me, and then I make it available to other people so that they can digitally download it and then print it out and cut and paste it. That's what you're seeing here because I know scouring through magazines takes a lot of energy and time,
Yeah.
but also Pinterest is a great way for people to use that as sort of a vision board as well. And I know plenty
Yeah.
of people who create wallpapers for their iPad from Pinterest, and they
Yeah.
screenshot it and they put it as their wallpaper. So there are definitely different ways of doing it. My preference is the tangible and tactile. And if you want an excuse to flip through a magazine, then by all means go for it. But you know what's so funny is that Kat and I were talking about this yesterday. Magazines are like $15, $20 now. There's this great magazine that I always see at Whole Foods called Breathe, and it is so wonderful, and I don't wanna cut it up because I find myself thinking it's too
Yeah.
precious. But at the same time, I end up saving them for a while, and then they go
And
into the
then use
pile where
them.
I can cut them up. Yeah.
Can you go through I'm just as we're talking, can you go through a rundown of some of the products that you offer? Because I think that they're a great way, at least for people to kind of who are feeling stuck to get started. So I know you mentioned the scrapbooking. Can you talk to us a little bit about the different products?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll start really high level. Creative Memories and I collaborated for a collection called On the Bright Side, and it's really focusing on how you can find joyful moments and document them. So you don't
Okay.
have to think of like a big thing, life event to scrapbook. You can really scrapbook your everyday moments that just make you happy. And that is a full collection where it's a scrapbook, you get all the materials that you need. I think you just need scissors and a paper cutter, and you get a box. So it's a complete album kit, and you get everything that you need in the box to create a full album. And then a step below that is I offer stickers and tangible products on my website and in some stores that give you the sense of like tactile sticker collecting or ways that you can incorporate in your journal, just a little spark of light that you can stick in there. And that can be done easily, all the way to my international audience really enjoys the printables that I offer because
Yeah.
I have made these digital downloads available, and a lot of them are free. So I have a YouTube video companion with a free digital download so you can just practice. There's one actually about self-love. It says, "Take a moment to celebrate." And stay true, you are powerful. There are a bunch of sentiments that I feel that people need to hear themselves and to read themselves. And you just, if you don't have a color printer at home, you can literally email it to, I use my UPS store, my local
Yeah.
UPS store. They have color printouts for very cheap. And you just send it to them. They'll print it out for you. You pick it up and you just cut apart these pages and you can journal alongside of it. Some of them have prompts. I have a ton of YouTube videos that you can access for free, obviously, and just try some of them out and see if they resonate with you. And you can do it in any notebook or on any sheet of paper. I personally love stationery supplies, so you can even
Yeah.
go visit your local stationery shop and grab something special because I think that, as you said about your pen and your pen holder, when you have those supplies that make you feel happy you even
Yes.
smiled when you were reaching for it, right?
Yeah.
That can access and unlock a part of you that will then start the practice and maybe create a habit of 10 to 15 minutes a day of doing something for yourself.
I love that. I love that. We're going to link to everything in our show notes. Amy, thank you so much. I know we're called Sisters in Sobriety, but these to me are sobriety tools also. And I love them. And I know that a lot of the people listening are looking for that new part of their identity, and they are going to be very excited to share in this. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to Sisters in Sobriety, and we will see you next week.